Thank you, Tim.
So we now go to the next report, which is governance review, and that's Jeff.
Kia ora. I facilitated, as councillors are aware, but for the public forum, I facilitated a session with councillors just to oversee governance, and I guess the feedback that's worthwhile making is governance in councils is slightly different to governance in private entities, because you're all expected to sit around this table and think strategically and be governors, and then you walk outside and go to the supermarket and you're expected to know exactly what's going on the footpath outside someone's property, which is a long way from where you live. So you're expected to know the detail as well as be across the governance. So it's quite a different balancing act, and I certainly acknowledge the different styles and the workload that you have to cope with. So there were some decisions that we wanted to take away and have management look at. We've done those in terms of looking at the schedule of council meetings, looking at our committees, and we would like to engage further, particularly with Hurunui-a-Rangi Marae, on the committees, because they both have a seat and a voice, a voting right and voice on those committees. So we'd like to do some further work on those three committees. And also there's a little bit of a view around the advisory groups. But really, it was a case of we went away, did some work, and decided, it's really up to council now to debate and discuss and decide what you would like to do with your own governance.
Thank you, Jeff. So we all know that it's good practice to review your governance approximately every 2 to 3 years, and there's a stage of the triennium where we've done that, and we're at the situation now where we have this report. So we're going to go to questions. So any questions of the report? No questions. So we'll, Jill.
Just a couple of questions, I guess. I've seen the fact that the Shared Services Working Group, Carterton, is going to withdraw from that. Is that South Wairarapa and Masterton aware of that?
Yes, Jill, we had Councillor Vergunst chaired a meeting shortly after the workshop, I think on the early 20th, 23rd of potentially of March, where we informed those two councils that the view of Carterton Council was the Shared Services Working Group was better driven by council through their CE rather than through a shared committee that didn't have delegated powers. So yes, they have been informed.
And they were in agreement as well. Yeah. Okay,
so the whole thing is going to be ditched.
Yes.
Cool. Okay. And the other thing was, and obviously we're going to choose option 1, 2, or 3. But in the past, we were in tandem with both Masterton and South Wairarapa in terms of their ordinary meetings, so that any Wairarapa-wide decisions would all be done on the same day, effectively. So we've got out of that that kind of mode. So I don't know whether we should be considering that again or not, or I have no idea whether MDC is in tandem with South Wairarapa District Council or not. So, is that a problem?
Well, so at the moment, it's not a major consideration for how we set meetings, but happy to take your guidance if councillors think it should be.
Okay, thank you. So we'll ponder on that while we have further questions. So any further questions?
Steve.
Oh, Steve, go ahead.
Thank you. Jeff, you mentioned about engagement with iwi and trying to gauge how they fit with these changes we're going to make. Were they provided the initial changes to the council meetings, and have they commented on it at all? Because, I mean, I know we haven't got a representative here today, so I'm just curious whether they've made any comments as to which option they might have chosen.
What has been provided was some notes of the meeting we sent to Hurunui-Arangi, our representative, to obtain their feedback, and I haven't received any feedback yet, Steve. And I followed up with a phone call as well to Jareth, and and gave him a heads up that this was coming, and we were interested in his feedback. Obviously, Jareth is our representative, and he needs to undertake some consultation with his hapu before feeding back to us. So I expect that process is underway.
So that it just worries me, us making a decision that's all around increasing our council meetings to say 9 a year, or from this point monthly, if Hurunui-Arangi can't provide someone for that meeting. I'm not sure should we be making that decision today.
Very good question, and I think I can't answer that. I think the hapu need to answer that question. However, my concern was more around the 3 committees where Hurunui-Arangi had voting rights. So I think hence why it wouldn't be worthwhile, or wouldn't be advisable to make a decision on those committee meetings without having feedback from them, because they have a vote on those committees. Whereas the council meeting is really is your call, but I think you're right, it'd be worthwhile getting feedback if we could.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? I've just got a question really, and it's identified in the report, but it'd just be good to have a verbal comment on it. It's just with the frequencies of meetings, it dramatically changes the workload for management, and things are a bit different than they used to be. And when reports were put together sort of quite a while ago, when we had monthly meetings, it wasn't the same environment. So in today's current environment and the workload that's with the council, what's management's preference on meeting frequencies?
I would certainly not enjoy monthly meetings. I can tell you that now. Writing a report every 2 weeks and then having a council meeting 2 weeks later and then writing another report every 2 weeks leaves very little time in order to do. So my preference would be the 6-week cycle. I think that's a good enough balance between oversight and management being able to get on and do the job. I think there's also informal channels that need to occur in the intervening times, and perhaps we schedule some of the other meetings, so ARC, audit and risk meeting, in those in-between slots, so that council are informed on a regular basis, but perhaps not necessarily on a full ordinary council meeting schedule. But yeah, my preference would be 6 weeks. I'm sure some of the team might like it longer, but I think that would be a fair balance.
Okay, thank you. Just before we move to discussion comments, is there any further follow-up questions? Okay, so we'll just go to discussion comments. So start with you, Rebecca.
Yeah, it's been a great process going through these structures and thinking about whether or not they're working effectively, because that's all what we're here for at the end of the day. Just a comment on the shared services working group, as I chaired that group for the past 2.5 years. It has been a conversation item probably for the past 6 months or so around just the effectiveness of the structure and delegation. So it has been coming. We did have the chance to discuss it at our previous shared services working group, and the other 2 councils were on board with the approach that we proposed. There are still some questions around future governance of shared services, and we have asked some members to have a look at that prior to the elections, and if there are any changes they recommend, they will be considered by new councils in October. But yeah, I'm supportive of this, and yeah, long live shared services.
Thank you, Rebecca. I'll hand it back to Jeff just for a sec, because we just had an update on the alignment of the council meetings, as you asked, Jill, and Jeff will just talk to that.
Yeah, so just to clarify, thank you, Solitaire. The April meeting dates, so Marston 11th of April, Southwise 6th, and we're on the 30th of March. So we're within 2 weeks on that cycle. On the May cycle, the three councils are within 1 week of each other. On the June cycle, we're within 8 days of each other. On August cycle, within a week of each other. September, within a week. October, it looks like there's two of us having a council meeting on the same day. And December, also two councils on the same day, with nothing on the third. So we are pretty much aligned within a week if Wairarapa-wide decisions need to be made.
Yeah, and I just add comment to that. I think some of the meeting dates are set to align, as identified in the report, with certain activities that need to be put through this process. Yeah, so like annual plan example. Yeah, okay, so we'll go back to comments. So Brian.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. You know, I'm before Jeff started speaking, I've looked at these options, and I think, as he says, the 6 weekly meeting schedule seems to be the best fit for me. I am mindful also of overloading staff and stretching the staff resources as we've got, and I'm quite sure that we'll be able to get the committee meetings within that schedule as good as gold at 6 weeks. So yeah, that's my comment.
Thank you. Jill?
Yeah, look, I think 6 weekly is good, and I've just been also to the schedule of meetings. I think I'm looking at something a bit different to you, Jeff, because the April meeting in Masterton, their full council meeting is actually the 6th of April. But anyway, they are definitely having 6 weekly intervals. So my suggestion, and I haven't flipped whether they're actually the same, Masterton and South Wairarapa yet, but I would suggest that we go in tandem with them, and it has in the past been really useful for obviously all councils to make decisions, such as I think the alcohol policy, the LAP policy would be a good example of all of us making the same decision on the same day.
Kia ora, Jill. Dale.
Yeah, probably when I read the report, the thing that isn't stated at the start is the goal or the purpose of a governance review. It's not just to, in my mind, it's not just to tick a box or to carry it out in the triennium. The purpose for me is to ensure that decisions are made by the full council, and that kind of the decision-making flows from the discussions forward to the point where the rubber meets the road. And just looking at this, it just seems to be a bit cart before the horse. I mean, under next steps, there's still work to be done around the committees and the advisory groups, but today we're going to vote on meeting frequency for full council. So, you know, if there's going to be no change to the subcommittees and the advisory groups, and we were to vote for an increased frequency in council meeting, that's kind of counterintuitive. I mean, there's no point to that. I would have thought that once we know what the subcommittees and advisory groups are going to work best to enable council to make its decisions as an entire group, that will then inform meeting frequency.
Okay, yeah, very, very good comment, Dale. Do you want to comment on that, Jeff?
Oh, it's fair comment. You know, and you don't have to decide anything now. You can absolutely wait.
Okay, thank you, Dale. Robin.
Sorry. Yeah, I good comments, Dale. I guess for me, going just back to the council meetings, I think 6 weekly would be my preference. Jill, you mentioned the April meeting for Masterton. It's actually only sort of 7 days out from our 30th of March one. So that's kind of within a week. And personally, I don't think they have to be on the same day, but I think if they're kind of within a week or so of each other, I agree. I think it would be quite useful. I think we certainly need to have a lot more work around the different committees. And I know that there has been some advice sent out, especially regarding audit committees. And I think we need to probably have a lot more discussion and understanding about what we're requiring of our other committees as well. I'm more than happy to make a decision on our council meetings because I don't think that any decisions we make on other committees and membership structures and purpose on those will possibly make that much difference whether we decide to leave it as it is or to go to 6 weeks. I'm certainly not in favour of a 4-week cycle.
Thank you. Steve?
Thanks, Greg. Yeah, I definitely don't want to put more of a burden on staff, and totally understand where Jeff's coming from with only having a small period of time to present a report before starting a new report. And it does make sense to have more of a gap. Looking at the adopting of it though, as I mentioned before, I'd actually like us to recommend one of those options, and then that goes to Rangi and to see if that fits in with them, and then maybe we can come back and adopt it. And that could give us time just to cover off some of the things that Dale's mentioned as well. Depending on whichever option we choose, or if we don't want to choose an option this evening, I'm just wondering whether we should be just recommending at this stage. So, thanks for the work that everyone's done to bring this forward anyway.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Just a comment from myself. I take Dale's point, and definitely there's a reason we're doing this governance review. And at the end of the day, we want to make the best decisions for our community. And to do that, you need a really, really sound process. And it's all about process. Doesn't matter what you decide, but if you're being through the right process and the decision is made, you've made the best decision for the community. And as mentioned, it's determining the purpose, creating an effective governance culture, holding to account, and ensuring compliance. And that's part of it. And I'm quite comfortable with your suggestion, Steve, of making a recommendation today. 6 weeks just makes sense, and we can use that as a foundation to build everything else off. But again, a good move to talk to our Hapu partner about that as well. But yeah, it's all about process and making good decisions. So yeah, it's been an interesting process so far, and it's not finished yet. But I believe having to review it, in 3 years, after 3 years, and especially after you councillors have been having 2.5 years in the role, I think it's perfect timing. So look forward to the rest of the process, and looking forward to going to recommendations now.
Yep. You may need to amend the second recommendation from an adoption to a...
Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll take the first recommendation, and then we'll make ourselves. We'll suggest an amendment maybe to the second one. So we'll go to the first recommendation. That's where we received the report. Can I have a mover, please? Joel, seconded by Robin. Thank you. It's carried. And then we'll go to the second one. And Jeff, could you read out an amendment?
I suggest, as Steve said, change the first word from adopts to recommend the schedule of meetings. And we can add on to the end of that, be discussed with our hapu partner, Rangi Marae. So recommend the schedule of meetings for ordinary council ordinary council meetings for April to December 2022 as outlined an option, and I think it will be option 1 above is the 6-weekly schedule. 2 above, option 2. I'll read that out again, shall I?
Yeah, go ahead.
So the resolution would be option, resolution 2, recommend the schedule of meetings for ordinary council meetings for April to December 2022 as outlined in option 2 in section 4.2 above, be discussed with Hurunui Arangi Marae.
Okay, that's been noted. So do we have a mover for that amendment? Thank you. Seconded by Brian. All those in favour, raise your hand, please. Anyone against? Dale's against. Okay. Noted. Thank you. So we go to number 3 now.
You probably want to bypass 3 and 4 and just deal with 5.
Yeah. So we're going to bypass 3 and 4, considering the number 2. So we'll go to number 5 and agrees to withdraw Carterton District Council from the Shared Services Working Group. Can I have a mover, please? Rebecca, would you like to move that? Yeah. Seconded by Robin. All those in favour? Raise your hand, please. Yeah. Oh, carried. Thank you. Oh, are you against, Dale? Were you for? 4. Okay, thank you. Has carried. Thank you.